A lot of stuff going on in Chiefs Kingdom this week. Some players signed, some players not signed, some players tagged and waiting to see if they're going to be re-signed or traded away. And also some big news coming out of the Combine. Fastest player in the NFL Combine. Can the Chiefs even get to him? All that and more next. This is Gridiron Gambit.
Welcome, Chiefs Kingdom. Thanks for tuning in to this Red Kingdom Media production, bringing you raw, authentic Chiefs coverage. Make sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date on your team. Now sit back and enjoy the show.
Let's work. Hey.
Welcome to this Tuesday night / Wednesday edition of Gridiron Gambit. I am your host for this edition. Joined with me, as always, my two pals, Dale and Lonnie. How are you guys doing today?
Good on this wonderful night.
Man, I can't complain. Just glad to be here.
That's right. Hey, when you're talking football with your pals, there's a lot worse things that can be going on. So a lot of stuff to discuss tonight. As I mentioned, there's a lot of players staying or going. But here's the rundown we got for tonight. L'Jarius Sneed is officially on Monday been tagged by the Chiefs, allowing the Chiefs to set up a deal, potential trade, and give the chance for L'Jarius Sneed and his agents to come up with a contract with the future team. So based on that and what we hear over the next couple of weeks, is L'Jarius Sneed possibly on the out for Kansas City? Then we've got Mike Evans was officially signed to Tampa Bay. So unfortunately, that dream has died. So what other potential wide receiver in free agency could the Chiefs be looking at and would get the fans of Chiefs Kingdom interested? Then we also have Christian Wilkins. He was not tagged this week. And I know, Dale, you've got a lot of talk about whether or not you think, hey, over Chris Jones would end up being a good deal for the Chiefs to follow through. And then finally, we've got the fastest wide receiver in the 40-yard dash in NFL Combine history, Xavier Worthy, running just a smidge past John Ross. And much of the Chiefs Kingdom would definitely love to get him. And we'll talk whether or not it's even possible for us to get into range to acquire Mr. Xavier Worthy out of Texas. But guys, before we get into all that, make sure to like and subscribe. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Red Kingdom Media. Give us 5 stars on Spotify. Let us know you're enjoying the show and that you're interested in what we're doing. Also, if you don't mind, you can check out our Substack where we're putting up daily updates and straight to your newsletter. And also, we've got some projects coming up that are more in-depth and some more fun storyline playing articles regarding the offseason and the drafts. So let's go ahead and get started. The first topic is going to be arguably the longest one for us. L'Jarius Sneed on Monday was officially non-exclusively tagged by the Kansas City Chiefs, meaning that he has every right to find a trade partner, and there's no direct compensation to be made, no 2 first-round picks, the standard franchise tag, and if L'Jarius Sneed agrees to come back on said franchise tag, the Chiefs would be agreeing to pay him roughly $20 million guaranteed. So, Dale, I'll let you take the floor. What are your thoughts on L'Jarius Sneed and whether or not it seems like he is going to be on the go, or how much a likelihood you see him truly returning to the Chiefs?
Honestly, right now, my percentage of L'Jarius Sneed coming back to the Kansas City Chiefs is really at 30%. I do have him 70% leaving and 70% leaving, 30% actually staying. So really at this moment right now, like I said before, once you give a guy and give him permission to actually go out there and find a trade, I think at this point, typically that means that they're okay with you going, and it's better off with you actually going out there and trying to get the best deal that you actually can. And with guys like Detroit, Miami, and Pittsburgh definitely interested, they have the money to do that. You have Miami, who lost Xavier Howard. He's a free agent. Detroit, they might be losing some guys. Didn't really have that great of a secondary. Their safeties was great, but really having someone on that corner, on the outside, being able to lock it up, they would definitely love to have that. And then Pittsburgh, me and Lonnie was talking about this already. Him and Mike Tomlin, that's nice. And you got Minka on the back end. They will want that, especially with the struggles that they had offensively. You want to make sure you want to have a defense that can go out there, get some stops, and get you the ball back. So having someone on the outside who can line up with just your number one guy every time and take them out of the game, any team will want that on their side. But with them being in contention of actually grabbing him and being able to trade, I think they would love that. But and seeing those type of teams out there as well too, these are all teams that were in the playoffs. So he has a list of teams that were in the playoffs, and they're looking to actually add to that so they can go back and try to go to the Super Bowl and win one. So that puts a lot on his plate as well too, where it's like, it's not like I'm going to any nobodies. I'm not going to like the Bears or the Panthers, who is not competing. These are guys who are looking to bring me on that's playoff teams. So
Right.
yeah, I don't think at this moment, I think a deal will be done before April.
All right, fair enough. Lonnie, take it away. What do you got to say?
Yeah, so I share those same sentiments, and same thoughts as far as L'Jarius Sneed having one foot out the door and one foot here. I think he's definitely outplayed his contract here. And with the Chiefs being already stating that they're not going to be paying him that $19 million, we know that he's trying to find trade partners. Like I said on these previous shows, I think we're in the same situation that we were in with Tyreek Hill. You have one of your best players who've outplayed their contract. He's not going to be able to make as much money as he could possibly make here in Kansas City, being that the way our roster is structured, and how the money is kind of flowing here. So you have to see if you can get as much compensation as you can possibly get for him in return for this player. So just kind of mortgaging the house for one player. You're hoping to see that if an organization does that. Being that I was just talking with Dale off air a little bit yesterday. There hasn't been a first round pick traded for a corner, and I didn't know that. Knowing that L'Jarius Sneed is the best corner in this market, free agent market as of right now, I don't know how fast this deal gets done or how fast this deal moves. And I feel like if that price any somewhat or kind of comes down and he just doesn't like what he's seeing from these other teams, because they are on the cusp of competing, but they're not surefire AFC champions or NFC championship bound. So I wouldn't be surprised if I see them come back down to earth, and try and get something done with L'Jarius Sneed. And both of us find ourselves kind of at a point to where we're not getting anywhere on the compensation side, or we're not getting anywhere on the contract side. But I wouldn't be surprised. I want to see something get done, but I wouldn't be surprised if something gets done. But I also wouldn't be surprised if he's traded it either.
Yeah, I think at this point, one of the topics we've got later on, if one of Dale's magic wishes comes true in that regard, I think the price point that L'Jarius Sneed is at right now isn't as scary if you have two players that are on the younger scale versus trying to bring Chris back. We had a group chat going and kind of a conversation of why is L'Jarius Sneed the one who's getting tagged, and now at this point in time, Chris Jones is a walking free agent who could be signed, and all the trolling that he's doing on X right now, saying he's going to be a Las Vegas Raider and all that. So I'm not as convinced about his complete departure until we see a Chris Jones contract official. But it's got to be said that Brett Veach figured that at this point in time, whether there's more value in L'Jarius Sneed versus Chris Jones, I'm not sure, but that's the point of a franchise tag for a team, is to tag a player to ensure that he doesn't hit direct unrestricted free agency because you think he would just get massively overpaid and his value to you is gigantic. If all the talk prior to the end of the season is that it's been Chris Jones is more valuable than Sneed, and then at the end of the season we had kind of changed our mind about that and said that Sneed was more valuable just because we had these stats, but then all the players and the coaching staff and all that still say that Chris Jones is the most dominant and is the focal point. So if that was the case, you would have thought the Chiefs would franchise tag Chris Jones, but the number was already too scary. Well, how come the $20 million isn't too scary for L'Jarius Sneed then? Maybe to some degree they would be willing to pay that amount if they don't get the price they want. I think the second round has been the most common thrown out there trade compensation, possibly a day 3 pick thrown in there. Some people are trying to get a first round pick, like the Detroit's pick or a Miami's pick, or one down in the late first round, just ahead of the Chiefs. But I'm just not sure if the fact that L'Jarius needs to be met with a giant contract is going to fetch the draft compensation that much of the kingdom were looking for. So I think a single resource, probably day 2, is all we're going to get. And if they want to try to package things to get into day 1, maybe they see the value in that and decide to pull the trigger on that.
We'll see. We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
It's already out there. The facts out there. It shows.
Yeah.
It shows.
Yeah, for sure. So that was it for the first segment. So now we're going to go ahead and move on to the wide receiver conversation. As we know, Mike Evans officially re-signed with Tampa Bay. So, of course, that means all the Chiefs fans who thought we were going to get him is gone. And to transition from the first topic into this one, because Mike Evans is not set to be a free agent and therefore a Chief, maybe the Chiefs have an extra $20 million they planned on giving to Mike Evans this season that then they would be willing to give to another free agent that they deem worthy. And Brett Veach has had nothing but glowing talks about L'Jarius Sneed. So maybe that's where that money ends up going. But regardless, everybody has been saying the wide receiver room needs improvement. You just let go of Marquez Valdes-Scantling. You saved the money that comes with that. And now you've got a little bit of money to spend, but you're still trying to fortify your Super Bowl championship winning defense. So the main question that's coming out is, who are some of the top wide receiver targets the Chiefs could be coveting in free agency? Darnell Mooney's been named quite a bit. But I think I'm going to take the reins and start the conversation and say that I think Hollywood Brown is kind of my sleeper pick for this. Just because Andy Reid loves the Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman, Kadarius Toney type of wide receiver, regardless of how well we've seen the antithesis of it work, of another wide receiver archetype. But nevertheless, Andy Reid tends to value that. And I think he's got that particular skill set. He's got a quickness. He's a little younger than a lot of the other receiving options out there that may get discussed here. and arguably I don't think he was given the chance that he should have, and he has a familiarity with Cliff Kingsbury. So maybe that can help a little bit of transition and make him one of the objects of receiving for Patrick Mahomes and add to the weapons list. Obviously, there'd be some injury concerns and can his body sustain it? But we were having all those conversations with the other wide receivers that we've had that have been that same role. So I don't think it's something that this team would have issues being able to handle or getting throughout the season and making do with whatever they choose. But I'll open the floor up to you guys now. Let's start with Lonnie. Who is a wide receiver in free agency you are looking the Chiefs to possibly be targeting this offseason?
Yeah, so I've heard a ton about the Calvin Ridley talk, but I really like this Darnell Mooney talk, period, just in general. I'm starting to love it. Really starting to see where people are going with it, being that he was just saying Nagy's offense. But I want to go ahead and bring up someone that I don't know. Did they ever figure out that we're going to get a deal done with Michael Pittman Jr.?
He's franchise tag.
He franchise tagged. Well, yeah, that was a guy that I was really looking at and really liking. Just going into the free agency, but as you can see, they worked out. They figured out a way to figure out a deal to get done with him. But he was bigger body wide receiver, one of those bigger body type guys that I feel like would have did kind of excelled in this offense, a yak guy. So I feel like Andy Reid always does good with those type of guys. But yeah, I've been hearing a lot about the Calvin Ridley talk. It makes a lot of sense. But I just don't see Calvin. If Calvin really wants to get that bag, I don't see him coming here and getting that bag. If you want to come win the championship, you may be able to get on this team. But other than that, I don't see it happening. But I like the Calvin Ridley situation and just the position that he played. Period. There with Doug Peterson, he's in a similar type offense. Does some similar type stuff. So I think he'll excel in this offense as well too. So Calvin Ridley has to be that pick for me at the wide receiver position. But I love Darnell Mooney too.
So I like both of what y'all was saying, but I am sticking with Darnell Mooney. Clearly, to hit on your point, I feel the Hollywood Brown part because to me it is either Hollywood Brown or Darnell Mooney because them both body types that the Chiefs actually just had. Right. Hollywood, Tony, McCole, Reek. If Zay Flowers is available, he was going to get him too. They want those short, fast guys just because they can blow the top off of off the secondary and they can just make big plays. So I can definitely see that. I can understand. And then it's like, right. And at the same time, it's like, okay, with that as well too. Just going into that at the same time, it's like I can prove that what I was doing, Lamar Jackson. We weren't connecting like that as well. Like you get me with a quarterback, I can do it. I can do that. That's going to be his argument. But Darnell Mooney, he's basically MVS to me, like just better. Honestly, I can go off that 1,000-yard season. If you look at MVS stats, he haven't had a 1,000-yard season. Darnell Mooney, he did have a 1,000-yard season, and he had it with Matt Nagy. So he coming to this offense, it's like, okay, we have that same type of body type that we want, but he does have better hands. You can go back and look at the article that I dropped already. It showed his one-handed snag. We haven't seen MVS do a one-handed snag. I don't care. Hey, make some big plays, but he came in when he was supposed to. But Darnell Mooney, he's just that guy, I think, that fits what Brett Beach is looking for as well, too. You're coming off of 400-yard seasons, 300-yard season. What MVS come off of? Not that much, right? Okay, you're cheap. We can work with that. You're going to be with Andy Reid. You'll be fine. So you can take this. Actually, I might give you less than MVS because you didn't really show that much just off those last 2 years. So, hey, we might 10. We can do something with that. Maybe a 2-year deal as well, too. Show us that way we can possibly do an extension. But I think you're bringing him over is going to be it's not going to be costly for the Kansas City Chiefs, and he'll be able to shine in the offense as well too. Dealt with injuries and stuff like that as well, but we didn't dealt with guys like that, and we kind of trust in our training staff as well too. So Andy Reid, he doesn't put those players in positions to fail, and I think he does his best to try to really savor their body. Even though we had some issues with Tony throughout the season a little bit, but we weren't really pushing him as much. We like do that surgery, go do all of that. So we want you to do the proper things to make sure you take care of your body. But I think with Darnell Mooney, he has the athleticism, he has the body build that we want, and then also he's not going to cost as much as well too. And after that with him, probably Curtis Samuel, because same thing, will be cheap and be that guy if you really put them in the offense and make them better, and be able to put something out there for them to contribute. So yeah, but Darnell Mooney, I think he's the guy we'll try to go with.
Fair enough. I think my concern about that whole process is don't get in the same position where we're paying a wide receiver $10 million to be underwhelming, and we can't wait to save that $10 million again in a year or two when he gets cut. So just whoever they decide on, make sure it's a timely process and make sure it's a good deal. Brett Veach is getting very good at trying to find very good deals in free agency. Drew Tranquil is a very good example of that. So let's transition into the third topic for today. So we know that Christian Wilkins was not brought back and was not franchise tagged by the Miami Dolphins, but Chris Jones was not either. There's talk that Chris Jones is likely to return with Kansas City, but if he does not, Dale, you've got some high hopes that possibly Wilkins could be a Chief and make a big impact on this team.
So let me put it like this. Because you don't make it seem like I want Chris Jones gone. I don't want him to be gone. I really don't want him to be gone.
You just like the value.
Yeah, it's the value that's there, y'all. And that's what I'm going to be discussing right now. Just because I was just looking at it. And Chris Jones, if you wanted to get that deal done, he needed to get it done before this franchise tag part of what happened on Tuesday. Just because with Christian Wilkins not being franchise tag and going into the market, as a free agent and can talk with anybody, his market is at 22 to 25 mil. Chris Jones is asking for honestly 30 plus, but they're talking about growing optimism of 27 to 28. I want y'all to look at the number right there. That's a difference. It can be a $5 to $7 million difference right there that they can save. And then guess what? He's on the upside of his career and he's young. He's at around 25, 26. He's not 30 years old like Chris Jones. So if they go for somebody like that, guess what? Chris Jones is a guy who's right after Aaron Donald because it's a big gap. But Christian Wilkins has the potential of a Chris Jones. And will he not take off as many plays as well, too? We're talking about what he did with Miami. What will he do with Brandon Daly and those guys on the defensive side of the ball? He might become a monster. And
Dale,
guess what?
I'll just point out that Christian Wilkins is exactly 20 months younger than Chris Jones.
What 20?
He is 28.
8.
So the age difference is not that there.
Not that bad.
Chris is a full year
30
plus older, but not too much.
Is he at 30 yet?
Chris Jones will turn 30 by the time training camp rolls around.
Okay. All right. So y'all can get me on that. But still, 28, that it's like, okay, we're talking about really a 3-year deal with Chris Jones, potentially. You give a 3-year deal to Christian Wilkins, he'll be 31 once he's done, right? So that'd be over with. But that 22 to 25, that's the big difference right there. And I think that's where it's like, if I'm Chris Jones, I would want this to get done as soon as possible, because once someone else offer you that money that you want to take, they're immediately calling Christian Wilkins because he's going to be affordable. And he's not you, but he can still put up those numbers as well. Could get a high sack total. Better in the run defense as well too. Not really bad. So we're replacing someone with somebody that's a little bit younger, but at the same time he can be able to produce at a high level as well. And then we're at the point of a pick and plug type of thing with the Chiefs. So we're the New England Patriots. All we got to do is get a guy come in, fill in. Our coaching staff and number 15, they get the job done. So.
Yep, Lonnie, you got any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I know you're not saying that we should get rid of Christian. I mean, get rid of Chris Jones, but you kind of make saying it's kind of like it's there. The opportunity is there, and if it presents itself, you think the Chiefs should take advantage of it. Is what I'm kind of getting from the situation.
Yeah,
but I do understand what you're saying as far as I feel like Chris Jones has kind of talked himself out of the market at this point. I feel like Chris Jones should have tried to struck when the iron was hot last year. He didn't strike while the iron was hot. He kind of waited a year, putting him in this age bracket that he's in now. Like I said before on previous shows, I feel like that 1 year difference made a difference from being Chris Jones being in his prime and kind of Chris Jones being considered an older defensive tackle. That 1 year, I think, was just enough to get him to where they are expecting him to be at a lower price point than what he would have been when he hit the market at Christian Wilkins' age. So I don't want to see Chris go or want to see Chris walk, but I feel like the price point is kind of high for Chris, being that he's at the age that he's at. And if he doesn't come down off of that, I do like what your take as far as them just going ahead to a guy like Christian Wilkins and saying we'll just supplement at that position until we can kind of figure out things from there. They've drafted well. Brett Veach is not scared to go and pick some young guys, several young guys at a position, and keep trying his hand at the door with the young guy until he gets something that sticks. So I would not be surprised if that is a route that they take or a solution that they find to the problem. But we don't want to see Chris gone and see Christian Wilkins taking over.
Man.
But it is a guy that is just as good, not better, but just as good and can supplement.
Right. If there's one thing Brett Veach likes, it's a deal. So if there's a deal to be made, he's definitely gone through all the scenarios that could and maybe would happen. So I'm sure good players are on Brett Veach's radar, regardless of the importance or what position they play, if a deal can be made. So this show is breezing by really quickly, and that, of course, transitions to the last topic of this morning's episode. We got Xavier Worthy, the wide receiver out of Texas, running the fastest NFL combine 40-yard dash. Obviously, this is getting Chiefs Kingdom geeked up, and the prospect of being able to get a receiver as fast as Tyreek Hill and Nicole Hardman and get that prototype wide receiver that we hinted at earlier, but in a much younger form. Obviously, a stunt like this raises your draft stock. We saw John Ross get picked exactly one spot ahead of our Lord and Savior of Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes. So a stunt like this definitely raises his draft stock, and I'll open the floor up. Do you guys believe that he's even in a position where the Chiefs could draft him, or has this completely skyrocketed his value to point of astronomical?
Yeah, so I just think being that the situation that happened with John Ross, it didn't make his draft stock astronomical. I won't say it put him through the roof automatically as a top 5 pick, being that we've seen this happen with guys before where that speed just kind of wanes away. I was watching the Pat McAfee show earlier, and they made some comparisons to the likes of Tyquan Thornton, who plays for the New England Patriots now, which is a smaller, wiry frame type guy that didn't take a lot of snaps in college and has the problem with staying healthy now. So I would not be surprised if guys were scared off from Xavier Worthy, even though he is a lightning fast type of guy. So I wouldn't say that just shoots him up past Ronald Dunze, past the likes of Marvin Harrison Jr., past the likes of some of these other guys that were really good at their position. Malik Neighbors, even Luther Bolton, a lot of different guys that are just really top guys at their position. I understand and love the fact that Xavier Worthy ran a 4.2, but I just don't know how much NFL teams are putting into that, being that you can see any day that a leg can break, or we just don't know what type of health is there, being that this guy didn't have a ton of snaps. But I do love the fact that he ran the 4.2, and I'm hoping that he's in the position where the Chiefs can draft him. I'm thinking he will be around where the Chiefs are able to draft, especially if we get a deal done for L'Jarius Sneed and are able to get some compensation back, maybe get some picks and move up and move around and probably snag the guy. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a guy that the Chiefs reach for, because we know that they know how to work with guys that have injury history and problems like this coming out of college. So this is one of their guys for sure. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's down there where they're picking it. I don't know if he how long he sticks around. Somebody may reach on him before, but if they do, it'll definitely be a reach.
He was projected as an early second round pick, right? Somewhere within that, probably.
I think
mid-second.
both Texas wide receivers were both about that range, and I think both of them ended up kind of shining and getting pushed into those 20s and 30s range instead.
He just based off of that, I really do think he pushed himself up into the top 20, definitely going towards the bottom half of the first round. But someone who probably feel like they will get a steal, just because just doing that, I think he still has a skill set as well too, and we can still mold him into what we want within this offense. But being someone who's a dual threat of being able to go back there and field punts and also be a returner as well. We know in our offense and in our style of game, that's kind of how you push yourself up into that receiver, getting more touches. Because if you're able to do damage on that side of in a special teams where you can flip the field and score a couple touchdowns, it's like, okay, what can we do with you when you're in our scheme and we're able to get you the ball quick or get you downfield and you catch it and you make a big play. So he has that capability because he did that at Texas as well too. I mean, Lonnie, you made me watch more college football this year, so I saw both of them, bro. They have it. It's just those guys that you mentioned already. They were solidified. They have to go in the first round because those are the prototypical receivers that you want. But right now, Worthy, what he did was, it's like, you're knowledgeable and we see you. The reason why we see you is because of the Tyreek Hills of the world, because of the Zay Flowers. It's like, if we can get you on that offense, you'll be able to do that. Now with your 4.21, you can't go past that. You can't overlook that. You gotta see oh, he's blazing fast. And he's not blazing fast just doing a 40-yard dash. He's blazing fast on the field as well too when you look at his film. Now, I don't think we get him still. I feel like people just really, when the Chiefs come up, and if they have at least a slight need of receiver, we're taking it away from them. No. But that's fine, because I'm looking at Lad McConkey, whatever he's from Georgia, McConkey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, y'all gonna be mad if I mess it up. I don't care. That's what I do. You know what I'm saying? I got a little twang in my accent. No, I'm just playing, but still, he been blazing ever since he was working out at the Senior Bowl and doing all that and what he did in the combine as well too. So it's just, I don't feel like we're really reaching for somebody in the first round anyway. But if they there, we'll take them. If they're a first round grade that we have. But yeah.
So I'll piggyback off that, and I'd say that Rodney would agree with that McConkey opinion as well, and double up on the wide receivers kids prototype and get Jerry Rice's son in the second or third round and just double up that and just have the Rice to Rice connection as well. I think there's at least 3 or more wide receivers that are top 10 talent that the Chiefs are not going to see. And I think the 2 Texas receivers, McConkey, a couple others were maybe the ones the Chiefs could be in striking distance to. And I think at this point, the combine has shown that this year is going to be very offensive heavy, which is good and bad, because it's going to push some good talent down because they just play offense. But if you don't grade as well as these other players, you're not going to get picked as high. But it also will push some really so defensive players up if that's the position of need. So the first round is going to be quite a night to watch for the Chiefs, especially fans. How much of it is defensive? How many quarterbacks get taken? You know, Denver's on the lookout for a quarterback now. So it could go either way for us. But Dale, I'm more on the side that this particular scenario has pushed him way above, and there's going to be another team that overreacts to this move and tries to play a defensive move by making sure the Chiefs can't get him. So I think he performed his way out of it. That scared the league into making it a storyline. Do not let the Chiefs get this guy. He could be a problem. So
that's
the Buffalo, and I think the Buffalo Bills aren't going to let it happen either. Especially being what happened with Big Duffy, anybody will figure out a way to try and get the next guy, but we'll see. Jalen Hyatt sat on the board for a really, really long time. So Jalen Hyatt did run it for too, but
so my last point is just like, really, that's our number one weapon. Sometimes people go out of their game plan to try to like stop us from what we actually want. But the thing is, with the Kansas City Chiefs, what you got to do is you got to keep to what you're trying to do. You need to do what's best for you. Don't worry about what every other organization is doing, because when you do that, you kind of push yourself back, and then you're in a position how you are in the middle of the season. The Chiefs stick to what they want to do. That's why they evaluate multiple guys. If you take someone else, then we think this person could come in and fit in. Doesn't matter. We're going to do what we want to do.
Yes, sir. Any final thoughts for this evening?
No.
Good.
None.
All right. Well, before I transition us out of here, make sure to like and subscribe. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Red Kingdom Media. Rate us 5 stars on Spotify if you enjoy audio podcasts. Stay tuned this week. We've got an article dropping on our Substack, written by Rodney, basically a new contributor for us. He's going to be doing some draft coverage this season, and therefore Thursday evening, Friday, if you prefer the video podcast, there will be another episode of Gridiron Gambit dropping, containing a much more in-depth conversation about the combine and who stood out, especially as potential Chiefs fits. Much of that conversation will end up being on the offensive side of the ball, so stay tuned for later episodes as we start going through all the positional groups and make our way through the offense and defense of both. So that's all we got for you. Have a great rest of your week. God bless you all. As always, go.
Thanks for checking out this update straight from the heart of Chiefs Kingdom. We appreciate your passion, so please leave a like and follow us wherever you tune in from. See you next tailgate, your trusted source for all things Chiefs, Red Kingdom